Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video on MCC Analyst. Today we're going to look at the MCC 29 teams and predict where they're probably gonna place. I'm looking at these teams and they're all so balanced. I remember I was on the Ultra Sheet Fluid spreadsheet when the teams were coming out, and by the time yellow came out, the difference between them in terms of last event coins was like 11. So these teams are very balanced. In 10th place, the Blue Bats. So part of the reason why I think the Blue Bats are going to be in 10th place is because I think a lot of the games that this team is probably good at are going to get benched. I think it is past time for Meltdown to get benched finally. I don't think it's been benched since its debut in MCC 22, except MCC Pride 22, which was last June. So it's been a really long time since Meltdown has been benched, and that would probably have been this team's best game, or one of this team's best games. Fire Breath Man is Fire Breath Man. He's pretty much good at everything. Shovel is a really good Meltdown player. Aimsy, I think, has done pretty well in Meltdown, and Elena can do well. I'm not actually sure how well Elena's done in Meltdown. I'm assuming that they've done pretty well. As well, I think Battlebox also probably hits the bench for this one. Last time I think Battlebox got benched was like MCC 23, if it was even benched in that one. Buildmark probably still benched. Shovel, Elena, they probably would have carried in that game. But time will tell. Initially, in my predictions, I actually had this team in 5th because I genuinely did not know where to put this team. But currently, I have them in 10th because I can't really explain moving them up in my predictions until we get the game announcements. Once we get game announcements, then I'm going to redo my predictions. Like last time, I'll make a post on the channel explaining my new predictions, and we'll go from there. So this team right now is in 10th place, but I don't think they'll be in 10th place after my predictions, but I could be wrong. So in 9th place, I have the Green Geckos. I think this team also kind of gets rolled by the game selection in this event, because I will be very surprised if Meltdown is still in, because that'll be like 7 events in a row that it hasn't been benched. I think every single player on this team is a very good Meltdown player. So if it gets benched, that's probably this team's best game down the drain. Battlebox as well. Goomy and Purple they go ham in Battlebox, but I think Battlebox gets benched. This team could be a good Sky Battle team. Sniff did pretty well in MCC 21. Purpled is Purpled. Obviously, he'll do very well. And George can do very well. Goomy can do very well. So at least they have that going for them. I don't think Build Mart is in. This team's probably not a good Build Mart team. I know Sniff is very good, but I don't know how well she could carry the rest of the team in Build Mart. Survival Games, again, probably not in. It hasn't been in the past few events. Which, honestly, could be a blessing, because the 2 times Purple has played Survival Games has not gone well for him. This team could be a decent to get to the other side team. Could be a decent hole-in-the-wall team. George does pretty well in hole-in-the-wall. Purple can do pretty well. This team is a very good parkour tag team. Just remembering that. George is very good at parkour tag. Purple is pretty good. The rest of this team does pretty well. I don't know how well this team would do in Parkour Warrior, just because George hasn't played the new Parkour Warrior. Yeah, right now, this team is in 9th. But, I mean, once we get games, this team's probably going to move up, because this is a pretty strong team. I think it is a little weaker than a lot of the other teams, so in that sense, this team might get a little bit outclassed in some of the games that they're good at. But we'll see. So the Purple Pandas are my 8th place team. Not really much to say about this one. I'm assuming Puns and Foolish are going to be a bit rusty. They haven't really played much Minecraft recently. They've been playing a lot of Valorant. Punk has been on a pop-off arc and has returned to streaming Minecraft, so we could actually see Punk second frag and outfrag Foolish again. And we also have Michael on this team to round it out. This is another one of those teams where I think they don't have glaring weaknesses, because Build Mart is probably not in the event. Unless it has a revamp, it's probably still going to be benched. But I think this team also gets outclassed in a lot of the things that they're strong in, like PvP. This is a very strong PvP team, but there are other teams that I think are stronger, and therefore this team probably places around like 4th in the PvP games. I will say this team could be a strong Ace Race team, depending on the map. Puns is very good. Foolish is very good. Ponk did well in MCC 27. And this team is also a very good hole-in-the-wall team between Puns, Michael, and Ponk. But yeah, right now, Purple is in 8th. I do think that this is one of the weaker teams, but they might surprise us the day of. In 7th place, I have the Aqua Axolotls. I know this is a fan favorite team for Dodgebolt. I personally don't see it. I think this team could definitely show up on the day and surprise us. I know Kratzy has been grinding MCC Islands like no other. But for me, this is a stronger version of MCC 28's Yellow. It literally just replaces Sam for Kratzy, which definitely is a buff. But I also had that team pretty high in my predictions. I think I had that team in 5th, and they wound up placing like 7th. Then again, this is a H-Bomb Aqua team, so by that alone, this team makes it to Dodgebolt. It's also a post-break H-Bomb Aqua team, and H-Bomb on Aqua post-break has always won. He did it in MCC 2, I think. He definitely did it in MCC 14, and he did it in MCC 20. Will he do it again? I will say, if this team does make it to Dodgebolt, I would be very happy, because Kratzy hasn't been in Dodgebolt since MCC 9. And this team would be a pretty strong Dodgebolt team, too. H-Bomb is probably one of the better Dodgebolt players. False is insane with a bow. Cub has done very well in Dodgebolt. We don't really have anything recent from Kratzy, but he used to do pretty well. This team kind of reminds me of like a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none team, saying that this is a very strong Sands of Time team. The last time Kratzy won an event was MCC 1. Next week is MCC 29. At least next week from the time I'm recording this. Probably like in 2 days from when I upload this, because it's going to take me a little while to edit. As I said, this is a very strong Sands of Time team. Kratzy really helps out this team in the PvP department. I think this team is going to shoot up my rankings once I know what the game order is, not game order, but the games that are in rotation are. But right now, they're in 7th, literally because the teams that are above them, I think I have very good arguments as to why they're above. When I first saw this team, I put them in 1st. I think I put them in 1st just because it was recency bias. It was the newest team. Right now, I have them in 6th. Here's why. This team is essentially a weaker version of MCC 28 Purple. The main reason for that, I think, is I don't think Tubbo is going to put up numbers like he did in MCC 28. I believe he's still doing his Tubathon. He's probably still going to be doing his Tubathon by the time of the event. I don't think his Tubathon is going to end anytime soon. So he's probably going to be very exhausted. I love his profile picture. His picture, by the way, that looks like something he took during the Tubathon. That looks like his bed. That being said, I think Antfrost could absolutely pop off. But if this team wants to make it to Dodgebolt, Antfrost is going to have to at least get top 5, and Tubbo's going to have to get like top 10. And this is a very stacked event, so I don't know if Tubbo getting top 10 is within the realm of possibility unless this team really pops off. Scar has been improving with every single event he's played in, and Becky, still new to the event, but has shown that she's very consistent. I think this team is cracked in BattleBox. Becky had that insane performance last time. Scar, I mean, Hawkeye, need I say more? He's insane with a bow. Antfrost does very well. Tubbo does very well. This team is very well-rounded. Sky Battle is another very strong game for this team, but that assumes that Sky Battle is in. I feel like it's been a little while since we've had the Sky Battle bench. I know it was benched in MCC 27, but I'm tempted to not count that one because it wasn't really canon. This team doesn't have huge weak points. It doesn't have super strong points. I would have said Meltdown, but I really don't think that Meltdown is in this one. So I feel like I'm not talking about the movement games that much, and that's kind of because I feel like most of these teams are all very similar in movement games. There's like one or two standouts, but that's really it. In 5th place, I have the Orange Ocelots. This is the definition of a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none team. This team is pretty good in movement, but they're not the best. They're pretty good at PvP, but they're not the best. They're pretty good at team games, but they're also not the best at team games. So what is this team's strengths? They don't really have a strength, but they also don't really have a weak point. This team is pretty good at Rocket Spleef Rush between Philza and Ryguy. This team is pretty good at BattleBox between Smallish Beans, Philza, and Impulse. I think Ryguy does pretty well there too. This team might struggle in Sky Battle. Meltdown could be a struggle, but I also could see this team doing very well in Meltdown if it's in the event. Ryguy is like a heat-seeking missile when it comes to a bow and arrow. Impulse has done pretty well in Meltdown, and Smallish Beans has also done well. Phil's is a bit inconsistent, but he has had his moments. This team could be good at to get to the other side. I know Phil's is pretty good. Smallish Beans is pretty good. And this team is definitely a good hole-in-the-wall team, should that game be in. I assume it's in, because it wasn't in the last one. This team could actually be a goated parkour tag team. Smallish Beans is very good. Ryguy's very good. Phil's is a pretty good hunter. And I think Impulse has only played it once. But he's probably a good runner. Right now, I have this team in 5th. In 4th place, I have the Cyan Coyotes. So, what are this team's strengths? This team's a pretty good movement team. Generally speaking, Hole in the Wall is a very good game for them. Jojo and Rambu are really good. Scott can do very well. G can do very well. This team might struggle a little bit in PvP, but Jojo is a beast. I think BattleBox is a very good game for them. It's probably their best of the PvP games. This team probably gets saved by the fact that Meltdown is probably not in. Survival games is almost definitely not in. And this team can do well in Sky Battle, but I wouldn't consider it one of their best games. This team is really going to shine in the team games. I think Sands of Time is pretty good for them. Grid Runners is pretty good for them as well. In 3rd place, I have the Red Rabbits. This is a cracked PvP team. You name a PvP game, they're very good at it. I'm not going to go through that. This team is a pretty good team games team, particularly Grid Runners. 5UP is very good at Grid Runners. Eric, I believe, does pretty well. This team can do all right in Sands of Time. I wouldn't consider Sands a very strong game for this team, but it's still there. Movement games is probably where this team is going to struggle a little bit. Everybody on this team pretty much has that one game that they're good at in movement, and the other three kind of struggle in. So, like, Sapnap is very good at Ace Race, but 5 Up, Jack Manifold, and Eret kind of struggle there. 5 Up is very good at Rocket Spleef Rush, but Sapnap definitely had a bit of a struggle the last time he played it. And Jack Manifold and Eret also kind of struggle in that game. So, yeah. I feel like people are sleeping on this team a little bit, but I could also see this team kind of not throw, but underperform. But right now I have them the third, just because any team with Sapnap on it is a very strong team. In second place is the Lime Llamas. What are this team's strengths? Ace Race, obviously. You got Pete and CPK on this team. Similarly, Rocket Spleef Rush for the same reason. Battle Box, this team is goated. You got Pete, who can absolutely channel PvP with CPK on his team. Kara does pretty well, and I believe, similar to Ace Race, Solidarity definitely adds to Ace Race in Battle Box here. Pete makes this a very good hole-in-the-wall team. This team, I think, does all right in the team games. I don't think this is particularly like the team games team, but I think it's up there. So who knows? We could finally see Lime win a Dodge Bolt. But yeah, Lime in second. In first place right now, I have Yellow. This is probably the strongest team in the event. When your weakest player is arguably Captain Puffy, you're doing fine. The last time Captain Puffy won Dodge, or the only time Puffy won Dodge Bolt, was with Fruit Berries. And the last time Captain Puffy teamed with Fruit Berries, she outplaced him. So, yeah, this is a very strong team. Not to mention the duo of Sneak Snag and Captain Sparkles. Both of them get like top 10 or close to it whenever they team. So we also got the long-awaited duo of Fruit Berries and Captain Sparkles, as well as the Fruit Berry Sneak Snag duo that a lot of people have been asking for, myself included. What is this team good at? Pretty much everything. What is this team bad at? Pretty much nothing. Right now, I actually cannot think of a game that this team would really struggle in. You could argue Rocket Spleef Rush because it's Sneak's worst game, and I think Captain Puffy didn't do super well in the times that she played it. But then at the same time, you got Captain Sparkles, who's at least like middle of the pack, and Fruit Berries, who's one of the best Rocket Spleef Rush players right now. This team would be a very scary survival games team if it was in the event. Most likely it's not. If Build Mart was in, then maybe I would say this is a weaker Build Mart team. But at the same time, you got Captain Sparkles and Captain Puppy, who are both very good Build Mart players. Unless this team isn't playing to like their max, or at least even like if they're not playing to like their averages, if they're just really playing for fun, then I could see this team not making top 5. But I think if they at least play normally, this team's making top 5. That's my predictions. They are going to change, as I said, when we get game announcement on Wednesday or Thursday morning. You can expect a post from me with my new predictions. So that's going to wrap it up. See ya.